Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, great scholars. My name is Dr. Lucy Olavi Odushino. At this point, we are going into the second section for Lagos Nawa, and I am humbly the chair for this section. I want to invite whoever is presenting under the section to please come forward to this table. Do we have Adewale Ajakaye here?
Yes.
Please, sir, can you have your seat? You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please, do we have Wale Ridwan Kokorola? You're welcome, sir. Please have your seat. Please sit. Okay, my humble self, I'm the third presenter. Then do we have, okay, you're welcome, ma'am. Please come and have.
Hello, guys.
Please.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome once again. Yes, in order not to take more time, I think it's best we go into the business of the day. Please, for each presenter, you'll be given 10 minutes to present your work. And for the other participants, we welcome you once again. Please, you just take note of their presentations. If you have any observations or suggestions or contributions, you take note of them. You'll be given time to present whatever you have to say. Thank you. So please, who will do us the honor of starting first? I think let me call Adewale.
All right.
Please.
Well, yeah, good afternoon once again. This presentation is titled Syntactic Analysis of Spoken Phrases on Lagos Passenger Buses. It is actually pertinent to ask the question: what should really form the meaning of a spoken word, or what should it be? What should its meaning be, or should be based on syntactically? Spoken words are relevant in conveying thought spontaneously. Nobody plans most times, just talk, unlike the written one. And relying on Aristotle's element of sign, Boetius and ancient philosophers suggested an order of speaking, namely existence of things, mental concepts, spoken words, and written words. That is, this is actually showing that spoken words have actually come before we had written expressions. Now, looking at this, making sense of spoken words as a component of a structure is the focus of this work. Hence, the meaning of some spoken words on buses by conductors and drivers in Lagos. Well, because time is not going to permit us so much, I'm going to just quickly run to the areas. That two concepts are therefore very important to clarify the role of what we call terminal string. Because terminal string actually is the last expression that you have when you have, as I'm talking now, before I said this out, I have already conceived it. So that conception has taken place somewhere before it's coming out. So we are trying to see the construction from that level. So we have deep structure and surface structure. Those are the two components that we can use to look at it. So after the final string of derivation, the phrase structure grammar has completed its assignments. Because that's where I'm going. That's the essence of this work. We look at it from the phrase structure grammar angle. And according to Chomsky, 1957, phrase structure is more of an analysis of sentence components, like sentence parsing. So he has what we call phrase structure grammar of his own, because other people later added to it, and this study will also add for a little. And we call it the right X as Y. So, Ross, you take it to the beginning and let's see. So where we have the sentence, rewrite the sentence as NP plus VP. That is to say that we have a sentence. In a simple sentence, you have NP, which is, of course, the subject. Then we have the VP, which is going to be the predicate side. So each of them, you see that they still have component that is rewritten, broken it down. That is the way our reasoning, that's the way our conception is before we come out with larger expression as it is. So if you have expression like the man hit the ball, well, we can say you have expression combined together to have all these structures in place. So we have, like I said, the deep structure is that place where you have the final expression. We have the place where you have already conceived the idea, you have already composed your lines. Now, all you now need to do is to bring them out in a phonological manner, and that's what I am saying out now. So what I'm now saying now is in this argument is that there are words that we use or we hear that we don't know what they mean. We don't know even how they come about. And we want to know the meaning of the expression. Now we now say, okay, Chomsky has already brought out the three ideas of we start from phrase structure, that is the one I was talking about, the deep structure, and it's coming down to the transformational. He proposed many transformational rules where you have different ones to apply on the final string. So you can have a word like the man hit the ball. So we can then have a transformational rule of a question where we have the man, where the man hit the ball. There are other transformational rules that are taking place even before we arrive at that question. Then we can still even have it that, okay, let's add negation, transformation of negation to it to make it work. That we now say, will the man not hit the ball? And that can go on and on like that. So if we now have expression that we don't know the meaning, then how do we now discover the meaning? That we need to take it back, trace back to this phrase structure side. So if you look at, sorry, let me take the thing out first. If you look at some slang that we have in Lagos, that's maybe that they are using, the conductors and the drivers are using. And you have like Askari, Ayefele, your side. Maybe the one spoken to the conductor or the one the conductor is saying to the driver, Paro lo, Biafun, follow, file, Yabo, full load, Anamu, staff, Waso, pilot, Kala, Faiba, Kala, Figo, Efrebo, Owó ọlọ́pàá, atol, one bail, dúró gbẹ́sẹ̀ lé, márosẹ̀, kárígò, òsókè, tuale, àjùáyà, and the rest, you will now know that these words are used in peculiar senses because we don't really know what they mean. And if you are not in their circle, you will never understand what they are saying. Because we have in example here where you have fún askari yẹn ní fiber, that it give that askari fiber. And one can really look at it at that derivation, or even bíá fún ọlọ́pàá yẹn, that is give that police officer some money. So the derivation are example of the Soviet structures which have undergone what we call morphophonemic stage or morphophonemic rules, because they also conceived it. That's the way I feel it is. They have conceived it and they are bringing it to life by speaking it out. Now, adopting that rule, because there are other issues here, but because of our time, that we cannot understand this, because what happened is that the phrase structure, I would like to say this, the phrase structure grammar that Chomsky has proposed, he himself opposed it has been inadequate, to account for most of these expressions. But we have scholars, like we have had scholars, even like Lasnik and a number of them who have actually said, no, we can see, they are relevant because what we call explanatory adequacy or explanatory adequacy of the transformational rule, they say no, they are not having any advantage over the phrase structure. So in that case, we can have some of all these expressions and still have meaning with them. So how do we now have the meaning? Then we need to trace it back to the deep structure of that particular expression. So now how do we now do that? We look at it from the angle that, okay, you can relate the noun or the word with other words in that structure. Now we have give that askari fiber. So what would that really mean? Or when you say one Iyabo is already there, that is, you already have one, maybe there's one police officer, because Iyabo in this sense, according to what we can gain from the gift structure, is that Iyabo is though temporary, because it was popular at the time when President Obasanjo was in power. So we knew that Obasanjo is the father of Dr. Iyabo Obasanjo, Obasanjo Ojo. So the commercial bus conductors and the driver, they look at Iyabo as they have already transferred the name to a policeman who is dutiful. Iyabo kan wà ńbẹ̀ yẹn o, so that you can know, because maybe Iyabo too is a strict woman, I don't know, but they look at Iyabo, and so any officer, any police officer who is dutiful and is doing what is right, they consider her as Iyabo. So they will fear that person and go. But if you see askari is different. Askari is not different from the meaning of Olopa. And what is Olopa? If you look at the conception here, it's saying that it is that corrupt officer that is called askari. But askari originally is from Swahili, though it's used in Swahili to mean police officer, but it has its etymology from Arabic. So, but in this context, a bus driver will say that askari, give askari, because why will you give askari money? You are not the one paying him. So it means that an askari in the Nigerian context is a person who is corrupt. Yeah. So that is that. So it's to show that we can trace all these things that we hear back to the phrase structure, that component of our preconception where we formulate, we select, arrange, and at that particular time, we already allow some mental transformational and morphophonemic processes to take place before we now say it out. To make it clear, if somebody has said, as in to make the conception clear, if somebody has said, give me 2 goats, we know that 2 goats is not correct grammatically, because it's not agreeing with the number. So that means the person has removed the S. Now, but you cannot say when the person is coming, is giving you 1, and you now say, but I told you 2 goats. He said, but you didn't put S. You will still understand that the person is saying that, look, what I'm demanding for is more than 1. That is what it means. You cannot mistake 2 goats for 1 goat. Even when the person is not putting an S to make it plural, you will certainly bring 2 for that person. So it now means that regardless of some of all these things, the meaning of that conception, the meaning of the expression itself is still retained from the original place where we have taken it, but that is why something like that will be understood. Or if you say that I have it, or I have 2 goats, or if you say yes, you say I have 2 goats, normal expression, and you now say again, I have 2 goats. I will run out of time. That have 2 goats, then that means you have contraction. There is still the same meaning. So that phonological aspect has affected that expression does not change the meaning. So that means whatever we are saying, in as much as it has an expression of its own has been conceived, then there must be a meaning to it. So that is why I said that Lagos expressions on buses and all that, they have their meanings. and the meaning can be arrived at when we look at it from the phrase structure grammar analysis. Thank you very much.
It's a round of applause. Thank you very much for your presentation on syntactic analysis of spoken phrases in Lagos, Adewale Ajakaye. So please, we'll be moving to the next presenter, Wale Ridwan. Lagos as Center of Creativity, Pragmatic Analysis of the Artistic Excellence of Lagos State. So please, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Koforola Wale Ridwan from Federal College of Education, Technical, Akoka. I'm presenting a paper titled Lagos as Center of Creativity, a Pragmatic Analysis of the Artistic Excellence of Lagos State. Introduction. It's only the Chrome. So arts, culture, and history are some of the vital areas that has positively projected, preserved, and promoted Nigeria's rich heritage and tradition to the world map. Lagos is known as a center of excellence. This cosmopolitan city has been playing a leading role in diverse areas of Nigeria economy, including arts, fashion, culture, and creative industries for many decades. Lagos, Ilu Eko, is a Yoruba state in Western Nigeria, Southwest Nigeria, with population of over 15 million. The city of Lagos is housing diverse art schools, galleries, museums, media houses, fashion houses, entertainment centers, musical studios, creative industries, and various art studios. These have enabled the state to host several festivals, exhibitions, fashion shows, performances, talk shows, and art competitions. The productive and accommodative nature of the state has led to the uncontrollable daily surging of population from every part of Nigeria and other countries. Arts was a major medium used in welcoming visitors to Lagos before the new millennium. The sculptural work at Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, a very significant highway in the country, which connects Lagos to various states of the Federation, was a major artistic scene in Lagos. The sculptural works were rendered in highly symbolic gestures to commune the agility and no-dulling spirit of Lagos to the passerby or the newcomers. The statues popularly called Arometa, that is the three wise men, or some people refer to them as Iremeta, which symbolize Lagos chiefs in different traditional greeting modes, are bigger than life size in dimension. And jocularly, newcomers to Lagos are asked to go and pay homage to the Iremeta so that they'll be wise and successful in the city. And thus, as this popular musician sang Obesere, referring to this same Iremeta as you are coming to Lagos, you see this sculptural work, and one is telling you, Ogbodo Gidi, Ogbodo Suegbe, Ogbodo Yamugun, telling you, alerting you of what you are likely to encounter in Lagos. So the newcomers are asked to pay homage to Eyo, so that they'll be wise and successful in the city. Also, some Lagosians make it seems very important for newcomers to pay homage to the Eyo figure at Idumota, that is the Lagos Island, in order to be able to settle properly in the city. And if an oil polluter is being swindled, then it is then said, oh, therefore, oh, mayor, that is, you've not been to Lagos, you don't know the masquerade. That is, you are not wise enough to be in Lagos. For you to be in Lagos, you must be very alert. That is, oh, therefore, oh, mayor. And that being said, that does not mean, Lagosians are mean. We have some very friendly Lagosians who are very accommodating. And if you check, during festive period, if you notice on some of the busy markets, especially the Oshodi, the Dumota markets, especially during Christmas or Ileya festival, where the market is always very busy. You hear these women rather, shouting, alerting people that telling people that hold your pockets, don't lose guard. That is, because they know these people, they know what they are capable of. So they alert them, as we have people who are ready to, swindled. So we have those who are also, alerting people of these unscrupulous bodies. So these are indications that much courtesy are given to the city's culture, tradition, and arts. And you're still a very significant culture and in culture and tradition of Lagos. Lagos is an artsmith city. There's Eko Akete, Ilu Ogbon, the city of wisdom. Aromisa, Arodedemaja, Eko, Aromisa, Legbe. That is, Lagos is blessed with abundant water. Lagos is known as a bubbling and bustling city for old and the young. The metropolitan city receives many visitors from within and globally for different drives on a daily basis. People tripping into Lagos for diverse purposes, such as tourism, business, visits, residence, schooling, and of course, the Lagos party life, which is another vital factor that entices a lot of visitors to the city. The city houses the major art figures in Nigeria, such as the legendary artists as Professor Bruce Onobrakpeya, who has a functioning studio at Mushin area of Lagos. Also, Dr. Kolade Oshinowo, who resides and works at Yaba after his retirement from the academics. Also, the city is housing Mama Nike Okundaye, the owner of Nike Arts Gallery in Lekki. Dr. Okunle Adeyemi also resides and practices at Mushin after his retirement from Yaba College of Technology. Also, Omobayemisi Shilon, who is the acclaimed largest individual art collector in Africa, also resides and has a museum in Lagos. Josie Ajiboye, this strange, according to Ajiboye and Okunade 2017, Josie Ajiboye also trained many commercial artists and painters from his studio in Lagos, Mushin, Lagos. And of course, Josie Ajiboye is a legendary artist we have in Nigeria, who is also still practicing, known for his painting and illustration, a renowned cartoonist. Also, the legendary Ben Nwowu, Yusuf Grillo, Abayomi Baba, Ben Osage, BC Silva of Center for Contemporary Arts, Rashid Badamosi, who is also a very known art collector, and Olu Ajayi, who died recently, all lived in Lagos before answering the call of the master artist. The jollity and carousing resilient spirit of and surviving opportunity that came with the city of Lagos has been arresting the attention of visitors for years. There is no gainsaying ascribing the city of Lagos as a center as the Nigeria artistic main gateway to the global art world. So we have the image of three wise men. We have the slides, please, at Idumota. So also looking at the artistic trends in recent years, we have several trends that happen in artistic landscape of Lagos State. The state is gradually shifting from the villagized city, according to Emodi and Osiki 2008, to a smart city in terms of social and infrastructural development. The state has gradually moved from the mold. In those days, we have this mold where downfall yellow buses painting, which is very, very synonymous. The thematic is very common in Lagos, expression of Lagos then. But now we have BRT buses, we have the blue line rail. So also building of theaters across the states, then the John Randall Center for Yoruba History and Culture, which the center that is housing more than 100 traditional and contemporary Nigeria artworks. Also the revival of Lagos street culture, that is the Lagos Fancy Carnival. The Nike Okundaye's initiative, that gave out to the popular Nike Art Gallery at Lekki, then and other art trends. I'm sorry, the time may not permit me to go through. But in conclusion, Lagos artistic brilliance, opportunities, and the radiant cultural landscape has made the city stand as a living gallery where other states tapped from the artistic brilliance. Lagos' robust cultural atmosphere. This atmosphere in this context, we have arts, then the mosphere, which emphasize the inclusion of arts in Lagos society, has not only promoted Nigeria's heritage globally, but has also projected Nigerian artists and culture to the world. Also, the city has produced many of the finest African artists, both within and outside the country. Then the recommendations, proliferation of access to art training, support public governments and arts practitioners to support public and private partnership, implement policy-based arts interventions, and empowering emerging creatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wale Ridwan, for that presentation. We bringing to light Lagos as a center for creativity, as a hub for creativity, and you brilliantly analyzed some of the artistic prowess of Lagos. So once again, thank you. I'm the next presenter on this section, and the title of my work is Sex Workers and the Struggle for Survival, looking at insights from selected insights from red light districts. My name is Lucy Onaibi Odushino. Yes, please can we go to the first slide, please? Well, this what this work tries to do is to look at some of the tangible and intangible history and heritage of Lagos, bringing to full light some of the stories, some of the historical perspective of people who have been in Lagos and how their stories have influenced people who have dived into sex as a trade, either voluntarily or involuntarily. At the same time, this work tries to navigate how these sex workers, some of them, were actually misinformed by some of the memories, some of the stories they had heard about Lagos before coming into the city. Now, a good number of them, based on the interactions and the course of this study, gave their experiences and told they told the researcher how some of these stories have propelled or made them to come to Lagos with the hope that they were coming to the land of milk and honey. And with the hope that Lagos is a land of opportunities, is a land that once you just come into the land, you can easily just imbibe the trend of happenings, and you can actually find your own bearing quickly. Now, looking at a little background of this study was actually initiated because of a very clear experience that happened. Actually, I had the privilege to meet somebody at some point who is a retired sex worker. And we got talking, and she talked about how she went to Lagos, or how she came to Lagos, then because she had friends that come from Lagos during the festive periods, and they're all looking good, looking flashy, looking flamboyant, and it's like, wow, Lagos is a place that is happening. Lagos is a place where I also need to go and make God, cash out of the land flowing with milk and honey. And so her friends were like, come and see what we're doing. Come and join us. Come and hustle. What are you still doing in this village? And she went. And unfortunately for her, it wasn't what she expected, because at some point, she was taken by her friend whom she went to visit to where the person stays, which is under the bridge. And she saw that once it gets to a particular hour, the person dresses up and goes out. And along the line, the lady had accommodated her for a day or two. Then the third day said, babe, how far now? Which levels? You have to do this, you have to do that. And for her, who didn't even have money, she borrowed money to come down with this. How was she to get money to go back to where she had come from? So this is just to give you a little insight into how some of the stories around Lagos has misled people into this act that made them sex workers. Now, the study went further to actually bring its objective into for like some of the objectives of this story of this study is to explore the strategies employed by sex workers to survive and thrive amidst inflation and stigmatization. In recent times, at the course of the study, due to the difficult times in the economy, some sex workers have gone, through certain stages of trying to see how they can enhance their trade. Let me use the word trade, because to them it's a trade. To enhance their trade. Some have gone further to, imbibe some very absurd means, absurd in the sense that using diabolic means to make themselves very attractive, to the point that even if a customer comes to patronize them once, you have the tendency to come again, even if it has to get to the point that you need to borrow money or source for money to come and, patronize her trade again. So you discover that some of them, inflation is actually also dealing with them, because at the course of interactions, it was discovered that the findings said that patronage is not like before, because of course it is who has eaten that we want to go out, to jaye or to flex. So going further, the objective also is to elucidate the triggering factors that propel these ladies into this sex work in the first instance. And as I said at my introductory statement, I said that using the example I made, some came with misleading information, and they were not properly oriented about, okay, this is what it is to survive and thrive in a place like Lagos. Yes, some came into Lagos with jobs already waiting for them. Some just came taking the bull by the horn to see if they could change the narrative of their families and the situations they are coming out from. And going further, please, can we go to the next slide? This study.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. This study is is hinged on the theoretical backings by Jeremy Bentham, John Stout, which is known as the consequential theory. Now, what this theory simply implies is that it tries to bring to limelight factors that propel the actions of individuals. It tries to bring to limelight what could be the instigating force behind certain decisions you make or you choose, or certain actions you carry out. And looking at some of the reasons why sex workers in the first instance, some of them get into this trade, it's as a result of the situations they find themselves in, as much as at the course of interactions with neutral participants who were not necessarily sex workers. Some classify these sex workers as being lazy, because why will you take trading your body to make money as a source of living? For some were of the opinion that, okay, there are other means of livelihood, odd jobs you can do to thrive. But we will actually bring into clarity some of the factors these ladies, said were reasons why they dive into this trade. It's not as if they didn't see, as the Nigerian factor is always that we're quick to, make our own conclusions based on what we see. But interactions, brought to the forelight the reasons why some of these ladies decided to stick to this type of trade rather than taking the more difficult route to survive. Now, going further with the methodology employed by this study to actually, establish the definitions or clarifications of the nomenclature, to also, generate data by interacting with the respondents as regards factors that necessitated this. Please go to the methodology, Uncle. Thank you. That necessitated this. At the same time, the results, what they have been, the experiences from this trade, and what the aftermath, because of course, this study did not just go out into the field without a target group in mind. The study interacted with those who are involved in the trade, those that have left the trade, and at the same time, those who are just mere observers, like people who see these people and what they do and who have drawn certain conclusions concerning them. So the methodology employed was the qualitative, whereby focus group discussions were generated, were drawn out, and specific people, target groups were selected and interacted with, and also participant observation based on the observations, because the 3 target areas which were ruled out, or which were written out as the red district areas where these interactions were carried out, are places like Bariga, Ikeja, and VI. These were the places where this study actually had those interactions done to get some of its findings. Going further, the findings from the interactions made by the study includes: 1, that the society is against the atrocities of these sex workers, yet often request for their services. And it is very clear, because if you look at it, obviously, we have drawn our conclusions about them, but ironically, some people still patronize them. I mean, if, for instance, there is no patronage, over time, these ladies may see the need to dive into other means of survival. So this is one of the findings. Second, the sex workers have been discriminated against by the government, religious institutions, communities, and neighborhood. As I said, the third categories of participants that I interacted with, were neutral people, and this obviously from their responses, it was obvious that they already had their, conclusions about these people, and not knowing that some of them are actually victims of circumstances. The next one is unemployment and penury are major factors that propel ladies into sex industries. Yes, we know that Nigeria is a nation that it's lodged with issues of unemployment, and it has actually pushed some people overboard to the point where that they just want to make ends meet. They want to flow with the tides. They want to actually sustain their stability and fend for themselves and their families. And some of them actually adopt this as a means of survival. Now, actually, please permit me to digress quickly. At the course of interactions, and there were some salient points made that, as I said, that why is it that out of the fact that you can go and provide home services to people and make quick money, or you can do some kind of odd jobs like you hawk, or probably you make hair, or learn a skill or a trade, and you offer services and you're paid. Why do these ladies prefer to do this? And, in contrast to this, a sex worker said, "Oh boy, I feel sleep with like 4 or 5 men a day. Money where I go make, fee pay some people monthly salary." So you understand that to some of them, this is a quicker means of making money. Whereas if you were to, learn a skill and a trade, you'll be paying money to learn that skill, to learn that trade. And at the same time, you will be offering services and people will just be paying you peanuts. So I think these are part of the findings that were discovered at the course of this study. Now, this study recommends that, of course, we know that it's just the state of the economy that has really plunged people into so many fraudulent and, immoral source of livelihood. So the first recommendation is employment opportunities. Entrepreneurship should be considered and implemented. We know, yes, the government has tried in its own benevolence to, create some policies that has dived into, entrepreneurship skills, equipping youths and many others to be, skilled, to acquire skills to help them if there are situations of unemployment. But how many people are these opportunities available or open to? Sometimes these opportunities have stringent rules attached to them, which makes it even difficult for some people to even access such opportunities. Now, the second recommendation is the issue of prostitution in Lagos should be addressed. Well, some developed countries, at the course of my research, because some developed countries have tried in their own capacity to see, ways they can pull people out of this trade. Now, Nigeria, what has Nigeria done to pull sex workers out of this trade? Yes, sometimes police do raids and go to their brothels to harass them and what have you. And ironically, from interactions, some statements were clear that even the police guys come to them, to have this, well, let me not use some kind of terminologies. Well, the last but not the least on our recommendation is awareness should be made about the risk and consequences in venturing into this trade. Now, I chose to make this recommendation, but in the real sense, I discovered from my findings that some of these ladies are aware of the risk. They're actually aware of the consequences. Some weren't initially, but over time they became aware. But because they saw it as there was no way out again, they just continued with it. Now, in conclusion, this study has tried to bring into light some of the intangible stories and memories people have heard about Lagos. Some came, tested, and left, went to their new places of relocation and told people their stories. Some were not privileged to hear these stories. They came to Lagos to, tap from the promised land and fell into this particular way of livelihood. So this research has tried to bring this out, bringing out the factors that have led to the particular decisions made by some of these women, and also offers recommendations to ameliorate the situations of sex workers in Lagos. Thank you very much. So thank you. Okay, should I tell myself thank you for my presentation? Okay, thank you for the presentation. So please, I want to, at this point, invite the fourth presenter, the floor is yours.
Please, can I have the slides? Thank you very much, man. Thank you everyone. My name is Olubunmi Omotola from Olabisi Onabanjo University at Galway, and I'm speaking on market women in Lagos, the legacy of political participation and activism from 1920 to 1951. So market women are vital to the economies of many African markets, and their contributions are essential to the continent. Let the abstract show. Hello. Please, to the abstract. Yeah. They are vital. Market women are vital to the economies of many African states, and their contributions are essential to the continent's trade and food security. In addition, they also constitute a strong political force. In the colonial era, market women were politically active, and they challenged unfavorable colonial policies to their trade and enterprise. Ifalimo Tukwelewura, the geologist of Lagos, exercised considerable influence and power in the town in the colonial period. For example, she led the Lagos market women in their successful opposition to the Poland scheme. These women worked with nationalists like Abbott Macaulay to form a central organization. This paper examines the political activities of market women under Alimo Tukwelewura, their responses to colonial policies, the complex interactions with colonial authorities, their strategies. And this paper has looked at how this activity can fuse with academia to enhance women political participation and representation in Nigeria. Political participation, the theory, the social movement theory. So this theory examines, please, the next slide. Hello, please, the next slide. Thank you. This theory examines the dynamics of social movement to bring about social or political change. It explores factors like mobilization and political opportunity structures that influence participation in social movements. The influence of participation within social institutions like the workplace or outside political participation has been a long-standing issue in political services, Adam Smith and John Mill. Tokovae posited that civil association facilitates political associations. Markets in Yoruba land. The existence of markets, organized market structures in Yoruba land predated the colonial period. It wasn't just something that started because it was something that had been in existence. Yoruba women played a central role in trade. They controlled food supply, dominated long-distance trade, accumulated wealth and tithes. Colonial transportation, governed the colonial masters came, they built roads, they built railways, and those things, the colonial transportation aided the growth of urbanization and market. The next slide, please. Market women in Lagos. Alimoto Pelewura was born in Lagos in 1871. Her mother was a fishmonger where she learned, and that was in Ireko. By the 1920s, she expanded her business and formed the Lagos Market Women Association. The Nigerian Democratic Party that was established by Abbott Macaulay was in 1923. Was established, and the Lagos Market Women formed the mass base of this political party. Lagos Market Women and colonial policies. In 1932, a rumor emerged that the British colonial government was going to begin taxing Lagos women. These people came together. They existed when Captain A.P. Pullen, because after the Second World War, there was a food scarcity. So the Captain Pullen had insisted the Inspector of Prices and Deputy Commissioner for Native Foodstuffs had instituted a food price control scheme. They had put prices on food items like gari. So, but these women came together and they were not even, because one thing was, Pelewura was not educated, she couldn't write anything. So she didn't really look at the face of of the colonial masters. So they came together, and that women's scheme was not successful. Then when the colonial masters wanted to move the market from Ereko to Oluwole area, she came together, she led the women to Bodilon, and they protested. She was jailed, but she was eventually released after several rallies and protests by local people. So what I've done is that's the next one. That's two women. The departing party, that's Alimotu Pelewura. The next one beside her that's Abibatu Moga, the person that took over after she died. So in 1951, just before, about 9 years before independence, she passed away. And that was when Abibatu Mogaji came into the scene. And when Abibatu Mogaji was also involved, she had been involved with Abat Bakoli. Then when Chief Obafemi Awolowo got there, she was also involved. So, and even long after, even after independence, she was there. And many of us, we all know that she is the mother or the adopted mother of the president, but at that time, the Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu. So she served as Geology of Lagos for 62 years, from 1951 until her passing in 2023. So the next slide, please, you can see a picture of Moga. That's the next person that took over from Pelewura. That's Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Then the next slide. You can see the next slide is showing another person. That's the Geology General of Lagos. That is the daughter of Tinubu. She became the Geology of Lagos in 2013 after the death of Mama. But see, when we look at her own age, she was just about 37 there. And well, because Ahmed Tinubu, I mean, we all know that we all say that the man is Jagaban. When it comes to politics, he knows how to play. So when I look at her, there was no way she could have traded in the market for over 20 or 25 years. But because the man knows the importance of market women, so he strategically placed his daughter there. And she's been there now for over 12 years. So we can, the next picture, please, let's look at it. That's the lady with the father. So go there. Says the essence of this paper is to look at one of the way a lot has been said about women in politics. And we keep saying that women are underrepresented in politics. And there's a lot of discussions, a lot of narratives around it, especially in academia, we theorize and all of it. But I discovered that, like, maybe I've gone for programs on women, we are not looking at these market women. We are not looking at them as a force that can, because when it comes to politics, the politicians don't play the market women because of the force they can, because these women can come and close the market. And if these women, if you bring them into, if academia, there can be a kind of margin between women in market women and women in academia. Because with the women in academia, we come up with the theories, we look at, okay, we theorize things. But these are the real women that have access to power. These are the women that can change all the policies that women have. So what I'm proposing is that beyond just theorizing, the academia, we need to start looking at market women. There's a legacy of political participation. So when we are saying, okay, we want more women in politics, we want more, because when it comes to gender, we are looking at issues that affect women. As long as women are represented in power, it's the men that will make all the policies. But the men will use the women to get into power. When it comes to politics, all of them, they will wear the same ashwebi, they will use them for rallies, because they know the men in power understand that area, that getting these market women on their side, they can perpetuate themselves in power. Then I looked at gender, the last slide, the gender activism and gender activia. The speaker highlights that a gap between policy activism and intellectual activism in Africa, explaining why research has not had fundamental impact on the work of activists. Imnaimbao finds that unless organization of women emerge that seem to fuse the gender ideology of the female intelligence, that is women in politics, we have their women in academia, then it fuses it with those other women. then all the things about women in politics, the policy will remain marginal to the state. It won't have any difference. It will not make any difference. So what this paper is proposing is that we should start women in academia, to start looking at women, from this, start thinking of these other women in politics, women, market women, because they constitute a very, very strong base. For a person like President, and that's something like these politicians are quite aware of. They he just kept the daughter that was 37. Of course, by the time he was coming in as president, the lady had been there for several years. And with her age, so they just kind of boomed themselves, because the way of, apart from the money that comes in, is a way of exercising a lot of control over women. And when women in academics are not looking, we just have our own thing. We are not looking at that side. But the men are still using that angle. They are using it to keep themselves in power. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. I was even saying 2 minutes, but not knowing you were rounding up. Thank you, Omotola, for your presentation. Yes, participants, we've come to the end of the presentations by the 4 presenters. Please, if this time the floor is open to comments and questions, please, you have just 2 minutes each to make your comments on the I'll give you numbers to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the last doesn't mean you're the last. Yes. Okay, so that's 5. Okay. Techniques number 1.
All right.
2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. My name is David Bergson. I'm a biological person. And my comments and question will go to the first and second speaker. For the first speaker, I believe the word clearly states that we are doing a syntactic analysis. But you make comment about phrase structure graph. But along the line, when you are presenting your paper, I realized that most of the examples you cited that the data you try to use were majorly grounded in the field of semantics. If I would like to say pragmatics, whereby you gave us example of Asari and Ishele, follow, who load was one so. So when you do phrase structure graph, I was expecting to find examples whereby you can break down, because basically that's what you are supposed to do. Because when you said phrase structure and deep structure, it's about the structure, but your work seems to be much more focused on meaning, and power to say meaning in context. Then you made a comment like said that you don't really know most of the meaning of what this word means. For example, you cited Yabo, but then you proceed to tell us that Yabo means this. I think there's a problem of mental language in your work, whereby you did not use the right linguistic description to describe the whole type of work and exactly what it is that you are doing. So if you could look into that, maybe you should look in exactly what you are doing and then maybe correct some of the things. Now, the second speaker, your work also clearly states about pragmatics, which basically has to do with meaning in context. All right, the implication, implicature, a lot of those things. But along the line, when you are describing your work as well, I don't know. Maybe example you also cited did not really well the pragmatic implication. So maybe as well refocus the objective of the paper to reflect these things, or maybe perhaps you didn't have the time to present that. It will be very great so that when you give these types to people who are expecting to see certain things in your work, when they touch and check that it's out there, it will be like it's clean. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, please, the second person.
Thank you. This addition from I will not want to waste time because he has already mentioned some of the points I would like to state. But for the second speaker, I came in because of the title of the paper. I was mainly a person to see pragmatic analysis, and something that I was also expecting to see theoretical framework, the pragmatic theoretical framework that you'll be using, which your research not explicitly states. I think next time we will be guided by one pragmatic theory, that's ready analysis, and then there are examples that are vivid and not clearly stated. And not to waste time, the first presenter were expecting to see syntactic analysis of spoken phrases, and you mentioned well-based and deep structure, which is majorly about sentence connection. We break the structure to trace how future constituents could be made. That is, I think, what Chomsky is trying to say concerning surface structure and deep structure. If we break down the structure of the word, we could possibly remove ambiguity or get the clearer meaning. But in the examples that if you were not able, or you didn't have time of words, into break sentences that were given into their subjects, constituents, and how those constituents that we are making give us clearer meaning of the example. So if you look at that, and I think the work will be better enriched. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, please, the third observation, please.
That's to everyone now to be good from University of Lagos. So my comments is to the last presenter. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I just want to add that we might also want to consider the historical accounts of the women riots, where we familiar as Sokuti revolution. She was educated, but she understood the role of the market women. And so we could see synergy between the two. So I think you should also drop some insights from that historical account to enrich your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful suggestion. Thank you so much. Please, the fourth person.
Adebola Adeshola is my name. I teach in the Department of English Language and Cultures on very University Canada. Thank you to all presenters. I did enjoy the shortly papers. I have comments on all the presentations, and then I have a question for Adams.
Okay.
So my first comment is, I would as well bring it as a question. What work does your part on your respective part of work relate to? I asked this question because sitting here looking at the PowerPoint listening to you, I found each of, for those who use PowerPoint, I found each of your PowerPoint visually impressive. You have to be more intentional about what you take part on the team. You don't just have it the way it's set up. Some of the slides are pretty and if what we want to do is to aid our auditory participation or community involved, I do think that you don't undercut visual side of things by the nature of this kind of slide. So I'm calling attention to that. It's not this is not the first one to have that back in the so that's my general conclusion. I will now go to that. My first interest in your work has to do with, I understand that the focus of the work of sex work, and especially as it relates to the involvement of women, is an overbeaten task. It's this has been talked about, has been researched. I'm not saying that nothing new happened, but the question is, what is this new knowledge that this focus is bringing? What are you adding to the discourse in this particular area? Why is there no interest in male sex workers, for example? Because all I hear time and again are these women. So why do male sex workers not become something interest? Yes, in terms of number, why not? The other point I want to make has to do with, I also think the way we talk of, social phenomena, very much determine how we understand it. Yes, Other people can use vulnerabilities that fiction, but as researchers, I think they can be into extra careful. For example, I didn't hear you for the atrocities that history then commit. And I listened to hear one example of what constitutes such atrocities. I didn't hear that. So I would like to know what atrocities are you committing. And finally, you did mention us again unequivocally that in foreign countries that government there have instituted policies to educate women who are about sex work. I live in one of those countries. I don't know that that's what it is. What I know is to institute policies, to enact policies that make the world even safer, for these women. For example, where I come from, sex workers pay taxes. Who are those fine people? They write the best of that. Do everything around. We don't come to them from this satanic developmental lens that's characterized the Nigerian aspect of some African. So I do think that I also looked up an example. It wasn't focused. So what I'm saying is that claims got was not hard to some of the confusion to answer and you find out you should be very careful to justify your yourself. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for those wonderful questions and comments. Okay, so let's listen to the fifth person before.
My first concern is that we talking about one of the say about the Jewish paper, which we have in Latin as now. In America, there is a system of poetry. We have more of them, but we have one methods of how to do it. John made that especially all the issues from the we have a system unless you say where they're not actually doing the right thing because to other countries they don't care. Next, the glass of standing in our government to feel very all of the schools that are going. The system is like just like the issue where you do your sheets for violent person in the neighborhood. Because I feel if we allow them to practice it in the way it should be, you generate revenue. I think it's events, I think that you don't want this about the exports in Nigeria. I think Dr. Which I invited from medical line system access. So we can start that generating more meeting. I realized it was basically generating my work story. So there is the thoughts present and think it was when it was the origin of the people is contrary to what they so it's because I think the journey to learn the papers are trying to inform how things are developed for. Yes, we're going to manage. Don't you think it's time for us to bring that principle? There might be a question. People not because doesn't basically involve trying to have questions. Trying to make a safe ground for everybody to be valuable together. Another time to move into of dominant, oppression, alienation, so something in the matrix education, domination, silence, which is part of the domination, alienation, oppression, more like that on this settle, so grateful, and I think what we should have advised and then the action we as humanity are trying to construct the events to create another world. Present the idea which what I think should happen. And also look at them as a case study and see how it's going to apply it, where them is not unfortunate equally. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the participants. Oh, okay.
We have someone with I need to apologize because I did not raise my hand. But I had thoughts, but the way he spoke, to some parts of the things that I thought about. And I think it's very important to see sex workers as service provider. I think it really something to completely interrogate this. Because they provide this service. But that's the service provider, we are in industry, something that they are teaching in now. Also, I think you're on sex work. To an extent, you spoke about labels, but it seems you were focusing on sex workers in programs. You are not, you did not stop at anything is digital, because that's the diversified aspects of trade plans, and I think it's important to look at that because there is because there is full of application, and I believe that this sort of documentation is important for a kind of assemblage of names, because, for example, Australia has decriminalized sex work, and there's rights. There are laws to protect, to make sure that this person, at the end of the day, it's not about what they do, but the fact that they are human beings. And this sort of thing. I think this work is important when you say something about brothels. Even those brothels, are they completely part of labels as such? Because for a lot of people, it's just the house of those men. Nobody really cares to know they have electricity, they have basic amenities, they are just there. So they do provide service. But there is an online aspect. I mean, in 2020, because there's a lot more sex workers, independent families, in now people are brought up with them. But for the longest period, I used to and I remember people who were shooting videos and actually, I was getting $1,000. As far back as 2010, 2007, actually, these are points to explore, not just filtering it and growth creating profit. I think the sex workers who are in the show, but there. So you may not explore that. Still looking at it in the conference of Lagos for leaders to diversify media. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do we have any other further comments? Okay, so we still have time for
Based on what she said, I think from my own understanding of her presentation, I think our perspective is not necessarily giving more power to the market women, but rather inclusion. Having women in academia realize the role of in that issue of market women, their role in trying to drive the agenda of having more women in politics. That if you want to drive that agenda, look at the grassroots. That is what politicians are using. That's why I think this is not because they want culture. So we too should have something to improve them. I think that's
Can I respond? Okay, please respond. So thank you very, very much. Of course, you mentioned about women. I look into some of the works of Wolish. I read Ake, the Memories of Childhood by Professor Wolish. And one of the sources, the women in Abeokuta, they were the only Kabak. Belong to someone like the mom. They're known arrow shop. If you look at those ones were the market women. And one of the reasons, in fact, when they were having those meetings, and I think it was Fela's dad that came and said, if you want to be all these meetings that you're having here, you can't change until you go to those market women. And it was that fusion that they were able to accomplish that. Because if you were just Fumilayo and some Kuti and the only Kabas, they won't be able to accomplish that. They won't. It was their fusion, and that's what I'm saying, that the women in academics, I call it gender activism and gender academia. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of women. I'm not saying domination of, I'm trying to say there must be inclusion. But if we are thinking, one of the things that we have is that we have too few women in politics, and that's where those decisions are made. And one of the ways to have more women in politics, those women are very sorry, might not necessarily come from academia. But when we have program, we invite market women, we start telling them about these are the things that they just go, yeah, can you control, they wear their career. I go and say, vote for that other person. But they are not thinking of it that, okay, when women are there, they can push. Imagine if you have something to bring the genealogy of Lagos and we bring her there, and you are thinking of things, and you're able to convince her. Those are things, women, because you see, we must look for that inclusion, and we must be able to match. Unless that margin comes, we can theorize and do all the theories, but those things are not going to fly until we begin to include those people. I'm not a politician, but there are people that, so when you theorize, bring all those other women, explain those theories to them. They are the ones that will represent, and that's probably the best way that we can have more women in politics and begin to have policies that will affect men and promote the gender of men. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So, okay, please respond.
Thank you very much, Sir, for the comments you made. Well, like you saw it the other time were not permitting me to bring those. Even the slide could not show properly for us to see the structures. But what I was trying to do, I think I got your point, is that there is the confusion right from the beginning of transformational generative grammar that we do not have the structure of the meaning is not relevant to analysis of syntactic structures. Chomsky has said it, that we don't need it. So it's totally semantic aspect. But, as time went on, during the period of discussion about theory, we realized that, okay, we needed to incorporate the meaning aspect. That's where we have, in fact, the recent theories, that came out from generative grammar. They now have logical form and phonological form. So logical form is talking about the meaning aspect of the theory now. And we now have a phonological form, which is talking about the speech, the phonology, the way we render it in speech like that. So, but what I have done in this study is to collate those words, because it wasn't easy to get the real sentences, let me say, where these particular expressions came out from. You can only ask the question, probably it was interview, what are the things that what are the words that you people use that you always have and you engage yourself with and you understand, you say this and that. But I have invented several sentences where these are being used to analyze the meaning of those words, because those words, words, like it has been stated, that a word can only have a meaning in relation to other meaning, other words that you have in the construction, in the sentence. So, and there are even this study also brought out expansion of the phrase structure grammar. He limited it. Some people are saying, no, we can extend it. So to accommodate some of this, I have even suggested too that we also accommodate some areas, but time will not permit us to look at that. So thank you. I'm very grateful, but I'm not doing your point. Thank you.
Okay, I'm also a presenter, so let me respond to number two. I appreciate the comments that were made concerning my work, my study, and I just want to respond to, the fourth speaker. You talked about social phenomena that define the use of string words, like you mentioned across. I think I was just presenting a response from a participant from the field. That the sick is saying that unfortunately committed by this level, telling their bodies to make ends meet and all that. But I understand clearly from the perspective you were talking about. Then also in foreign claims, I said at the course of my study, and actually having at least in the content of the body of the work, I have this office. If you mention Australia, I have those stats also because I know some. This, like for instance, I know that Netherlands has even regulated sex work. I think this is some of my at the course of my study. Then what it is well noted. Then also said what additions to my work contributing to the knowledge. Now, sir, I want you to understand that yes, when we look at issues, well, look at diverse parts of the society, we discover that every issue has been, researched, discussed, analyzed from different perspectives. But for this work, the period varies. She mentioned the very salient time. Now, this sex work has been looking at the digital platforms. It has been, packaged in a way that it's now a sellable trade using the digital platform. Now, looking at the periods, you know that different motive, your emotion, better understanding of sex work differs. Like in the 80s, the understanding about sex work differs from that of the 90s, differs from, in short, now. And that was why, at the course of my discussion, I mentioned recent trends. Now, the topic says the struggles, looking at their struggles due to the economic things we see now in the economy. For instance, government have made their policies, stringent policies now, that of course has made life difficult for the Nigerian people. And because of that, discovered that so many people dive into a lot of things to make ends meet. So even the sex workers, you discover that, I'm just talking based on the interactions I had. You discover that some of them will tell you that, okay, this is what I now do, or this is what somebody else does. So like one gave an example that some people now, they go through other things just to enhance business, to bring trades. But when I looked at it, because I had to read, of course, some source materials from previous studies that have been done on this particular study. I discovered that some of the work I came across, they don't talk about enhancing your trade using algorithms or using extra rules to enhance your trade. But right now, the interactions have unveiled that some of them do this now to enhance their trade. And that's one thing that has come into the open. Now, second, as I also said during my interactions, I discovered that my interactions took me to even people that have relinquished that have, abandoned this trade. And I got to discover that because the economy is hard, they were no longer getting traveling, then test. And some less things, some have to look for other ways for survival. So I think part of what my work is bringing out into knowledge is that sex work, there has been a major shift of what it used to be due to some of these things that have been unveiled and because of the investigation. And although slightly, I also mentioned digitalization. I also mentioned in the body of my work, I mentioned what I refer to as packaged sex work, where some people, in quote, they are not doing this like the way others do it. When I talked about some I go to the brothel, they come out to the night, they see well. But some people now, they are people who work in well-placed positions, people who work in organizations, people who actually have a source of livelihood, but they still do this directly or indirectly. These were some of the things that I were brought out into like the contribution that okay, sex work is not like what it used to be, that people just stay in the brothel, they come out in the night and sell. We now have packaged sex workers, people who in the daytime, they don't do it. People who are people you classify as the elite, people who you classify as well-thought, people who you have all classifications surrounding their personality. but that indirectly they still cook because when you engage, sorry, sir.
Can I just make one point? I know, thank you for. I could one of the just so that you. I'm engaged with my colleague. Talking about is meditation. Well, I think that I see a lot of this time. Not sure I want to read it because of the fact that it's different parts that's relevant further. But if you operate the animal so suggested, you'll have something more like this is it's a fine focus. Only that we need you to send out that shift so that you and that shift in the digital. It's the so I mean you can prove my solution great.
Even the social aspect of the Yahoo boys aspects of the things. Can't address prostitution without
Thank you very much. So I think that's the end, right?
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Before you can find any of the money go on that local.
It was far.
But it's no more.
Mommy, I don't go on my data again. No, Mona, see, if I like many session, no one, me no connect. It's none of my business. My data has finished. I don't complain for group. Nobody. My data is only 5G. If you guys connect your own, you should try your own first.
They are going to be fun with that. I will be fun like that.
They will not you on. You will have fun. Okay.
Why can't they be fun?
Since on Monday, since on Tuesday, Monday, I've been